So if you work in industrial distribution, the buying process isn't, well, it's not like adding a book to your cart.
Oh, not at all. It's more like assembling a really complex blueprint. Right.
Exactly. We're talking about CPUs, power supplies, I/O modules, all these interlocking parts that have to work together perfectly.
It's probably the most unforgiving corner of e-commerce.
Yeah.
I mean, the margin for error is basically zero.
Because if a customer gets one part wrong, it's not just a return. It could grind their whole production line to a halt.
Precisely.
And the real killer for distributors, the thing that really hits the margins, isn't the huge, obvious mistake.
Nobody's buying a toaster instead of a PLC.
Right. It's the almost right order. That one tiny, subtle incompatibility that looks fine, slips through quoting, and then disaster on the shop floor weeks later. Okay, let's unpack this. This core problem, the almost right order, creates this massive operational drag we've been reading about.
It does. And that drag really centers on one thing, the RMA, the Returns Merchandise Authorization.
And most people just think of that as, the cost of shipping.
But it's so much more. You've got admin staff doing paperwork, logistics handling the physical return, quality control inspecting it.
And the big one?
The big one. You have to pull a high-cost internal engineer off their project to figure out why the original bill of materials failed in the first place.
So we're not talking $50 in shipping. We're talking maybe $400 or $500 in labor for a single RMA.
Easily. We've seen cases where it's 8 hours of a specialist's time, all for an order that was, 98% correct?
Which is just brutal on the margins, and it forces distributors into this defensive posture, right?
Completely defensive. Their teams know a complex quote is likely to have an error, so they spend hours, just hours, manually checking specs. It's an enormous waste of time.
Which brings us to RB Engine. The sources we have position it as a fundamental shift. They call it a reasoning layer beneath commerce.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Its entire mission is to make every order correct by default.
So instead of people defensively checking for failures.
The system itself has these automated guardrails. It applies thousands of technical rules and constraints instantly, moving that burden of complexity away from the human buyer and the support teams.
Okay, I want to pause on that term, reasoning layer, because, distributors have had product configurators for years. How is this really different from just a smart filter?
That's a critical question. A traditional configurator, or a CBQ system, it often relies on a static table.
Yeah.
You manually define that A doesn't work with B.
Yeah.
A reasoning layer understands the context of the entire order. It knows component A needs 24 volts, so if you pick power supply B that's only 12 volts, it knows the whole stack fails. It's analyzing everything, power draw, dimensions, firmware, in real time.
So it's processing tens of thousands of these manufacturer-specific rules that a human would just never be able to keep track of.
Exactly. And that's how it catches those almost right issues.
Yeah.
The efficiency gain is it's profound.
Because if the order is correct before the customer hits submit,
There's no rework, no frantic emails, no support tickets. The system verifies every single cart or quote before the order is ever placed.
All right, so that brings us to the core technical insight here. The thing that makes it practical, it's called the fix-forward flow.
Yes, this is the key. Most systems, when they find a problem, they just stop you. You get an error message, and that's it.
Which usually leads to the customer just abandoning the cart, right?
Or calling support, which defeats the whole purpose. The fix-forward flow is designed to keep the momentum going. It flags the issue, tells you why it's an issue,
And then
it instantly gives you the exact fix you need to make the order correct and proceed.
So let's get into those examples from the source material. What does this actually look like for a customer?
Okay, so there's a great scenario with a buyer building a common Siemens S7 1200 system. Really complex stack. In the first case, they've picked their CPU and I/O modules, but then for the power supply, they choose a 12-volt DC model.
But the stack needs 24 volts.
Exactly. So the engine immediately flags a voltage mismatch. It explains that the system requires a 24-volt supply.
Okay, so the buyer understands the problem. What's the fix it offers?
And this is the crucial part. It doesn't just say, find a 24-volt PSU. It gives an exact suggestion. Swap to 24V DN-rail PSU, and it shows the specific part number and the price, let's say $363.
So there's no guesswork. The buyer doesn't have to go searching again and potentially pick the wrong 24-volt option.
The system guarantees the replacement is the right one. It keeps the sale moving.
That's the wrong component. But the second example, the missing component, that one seems even more important for completing a sale.
Oh, absolutely. This is the invisible gap. So the buyer selects a Siemens I/O module. The system flags it with a simple, clear message. Needs front connector.
A tiny part that a busy engineer could easily overlook.
They assume it's included or just forget to add it. But without that connector, the whole module is useless. It's an instant failure when the box arrives.
A guaranteed RMA right there.
For sure. But the fix forward flow just says add front connector, and it shows the price, say $117. This is the key difference between a reasoning engine and just a recommendation engine.
How so?
A recommendation engine might show you related products, maybe a random cable. This only suggests the compatible required part needed to make the other component functional.
The buyer trusts it because it's not just trying to upsell them on something they don't need.
Precisely. It's guaranteeing the integrity of their purchase.
So now let's connect that directly to the business impact. How does this translate to actual revenue and efficiency?
It hits two critical metrics right away. First is higher average order value AOV. By making sure the bill of materials is complete, like adding that front connector,
You're automatically increasing the cart total.
you're not leaving money on the table. And the second, which is probably even bigger, is fewer returns and better margins.
Because you're stopping that 12-volt PSU error before it ever ships.
You eliminate all those associated costs, the labor, the shipping, the restocking fees. And you protect customer loyalty, which is huge.
And this capability, it's not just stuck on the website checkout page, is it?
No, and that's where the value really starts to multiply. Becomes a single source of truth for the entire organization. The same checks, the same data, power every channel.
So tell me how that works for, say, an internal sales rep or a support agent.
Okay, think about the support team. They get these complex questions all the time. Before, they'd have to rely on, tribal knowledge or escalate to an engineer.
Which takes time and costs a lot.
A lot. Now, the system acts like an AI assistant for them. A customer asks, hey, will this 12-volt PSU work with my setup?
And the answer?
The answer is instant and definitive. No, not as configured. This stack needs 24 volts. I recommend swapping to this specific part. Proceed. Every rep gives the same correct answer, every single time.
That must free up a ton of time for the senior engineers.
It does. And then there's the third channel you mentioned, guided buying.
Right. What about supply chain issues?
Perfect example. If that recommended 24-volt PSU is out of stock, the engine doesn't just stop. It can suggest a compatible alternative, maybe from a different brand, and instantly revalidate the entire bundle.
It keeps the purchase path open?
Always.
So if a distributor sees this value, smarter orders, higher AOV, lower returns, what does implementation actually look like? It sounds like a massive undertaking.
Well, it's designed to be more modular than you'd think. It's not a rip and replace of your whole system. It starts by connecting to your existing product data, your specs. That's the fuel for the engine.
But I imagine there's still a fear of rolling out something so critical across the entire catalog.
Of course. And that's why the entry strategy is so important. It's designed to be very low risk.
The audit-first pilot?
Exactly. You don't have to go live on day one. A distributor can pick one high-impact product category, let's say industrial sensors, and run the engine in a hidden audit mode.
So it's running in the background, but customers don't see it. What does the distributor get from that?
This is the best part. They get weekly reports. These reports detail every single time the engine would have flagged a potential failure, the exact reason why, and the dollar value of the fix it would have suggested.
Wow. So they can literally see the money they're leaving on the table and the RMAs they could have prevented.
They get a data report that proves the lift, proves the ROI, using their own real-world data.
So they can build the business case internally before they ever flip the switch for customers.
It makes the decision to scale data-driven and, frankly, pretty easy.
This whole thing, it feels like it redefines the distributor's role. You're moving from reactive support fixing mistakes to proactive guidance.
That's the goal. Ensure correctness at the point of sale. That's how you get smarter orders and better margins.
You know, that leads to a final thought. We've been talking a lot about validating an order that a person has already built.
Right, checking the parts that you pick.
What happens when this reasoning layer gets so good that it starts building the quote for you?
Agent-powered discovery. You're taking all the guesswork out of the initial specification.
Tell me more.
Well, imagine the buyer doesn't have to browse thousands of SKUs. They can just state their requirements in plain language.
Like what?
Like, I need an S7-1200 setup for a 24-volt cabinet. I need 16 digital inputs, 16 digital outputs. Keep it simple.
And the engine just builds it.
The engine takes those requirements, runs them against all its constraints, and instantly returns a, quote, ready, complete, and validated bill of materials. It picks the CPU, the I/O, the right power supply, and it automatically adds the front connectors.
So the customer gets a fully guaranteed bundle without having to do any of the manual spec work.
It's guided buying without the guesswork. It saves them hours and guarantees the order is right the first time. A pretty powerful transformation.
Indeed. That's all the time we have for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.